Are we live? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast reunion. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous right now. Best of, worst of Season 3. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous after what happened last time. 6 months recovering from tooth surgery is making me a little cautious. I'm just going to say what's on the teleprompter to avoid any further issues like last year. Okay. All right, where was I? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is not happening. See, yes, Mike and Andrew set rules this time, allowing no episode by Darren Morgan to be included. What could they have chosen as their best episodes if you cannot choose a Darren Morgan joint? Find out tonight. And we will also hear from you, the listeners, what your top 3 episodes are. So please join me in welcoming your 2 hosts tonight, Mike and Andrew, for This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast Season 3 recap. Ugh, I'm so nervous right now. Is my ass sweating? I keep thinking that guy is going to hit me again like he did last year. Every time I open my mouth. Well, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is here, the top 3, bottom 3 of Season 3 of the X-Files. Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
Mike, I'm good. I've gone into the closet. I have pulled out the old tuxedo-roo and brushed off all the dust, tightened my cummerbund.
You are looking pretty snazzy tonight.
Yeah. And you with your tuxedo t-shirt.
Yep.
Customarily awesome.
Yep, it's been hanging since Season 2. I got it pressed the day after, and it's been waiting for tonight.
It has been indeed waiting. Oh, this is an interesting one for us because if people have been following along, they may know that we decided to remove from our usual tradition of deciding which are the top 3 episodes of Season 3 and which are the bottom 3 episodes of Season 3. We decided to remove from the running anything written by Darren Morgan because
it's just not fair.
That would be 1, 2, and 3 right there. It would have been Clyde Bruckman, Jose
Chung, and War of the Copper.
Or it could have been wait a second,
Quagmire.
So, what he didn't do?
Well, he edited and contributed.
He did. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Either way,
it is a bit more.
It would have been unfair, and it would have been a little bit boring for the audience, I think, because they would just nod along, like, "Yep, this is what we expected."
And similarly, we removed Tezos dos Bichos from the bottom 3 because that was the obvious go-to choice of worst episode of all time.
Yeah, we try to be a little bit interesting and have content that people will actually go, "Oh, neat." And this is outside of that stuff. It's factual. It is something I actually had to put more thought into because I'm like, well, so where do I put this episode or where do I put that episode?
I'm exactly the same way. I did not have obvious choices after we removed those obvious choices.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to dig into our top 3, but I say we start with the bottom 3 and get this show started, Andrew.
Yes, as you know, you have to start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. So tonight, we will be doing the bottom 3 episodes, the worst episodes of Season 3. Then we'll do our top. And then, actually, before we do our top, I think we'll check in with the poll results from our Facebook group.
See what you said, lovely listeners.
I have tabulated those votes, and I don't think there will be many surprises, but it's you know, I will tell you, I deviate a little bit from the polling.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit.
For our listeners, I have not yet looked at the polling, so I don't know what you have come up with. I wanted it to be a surprise. So I'm excited to see what everyone had to say about Season 3.
Yeah, as usual, we Mike and I sent our votes away in triplicate in sealed packages to Deloitte & Touche to their X-Files verification program. And we have got the results back today. just on time, actually.
Yeah.
In advance of our Season 3 recap episode. So without further ado, Mike, shall we start with the bottom 3 episodes?
Bottom 3, the third worst, and then we work up
worst.
to the worst episode each.
Yeah. Mike, why don't you start us off with the, in your opinion, third worst episode of Season 3 of The X-Files?
I am going to go with, and this took a lot of thought. I was scouring the episode list. I'm like, where do I fall on these episodes? Because let's be honest, it's a banger season. And I would say it's one of the hardest to pick negative episodes for. So I did go with The Walk.
Yeah. That was on my list, but I had others that I had more serious issues with more so. Mm-hmm. But I would like to hear why you think it was third worst.
Well, interestingly enough, I do enjoy the episode. I don't think it's bad per se. I think it's got a pretty good supporting cast. It just comes off as one of those episodes that gets lost in the X-Files. It's largely forgettable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's loose explanations as to what's going on, but there's questionable physics and motives that make this one a little bit wobbly. In the opening scene, the guy tries to kill himself by boiling himself. Right. And like you pointed out, the water heats amazingly fast. And the ghostly force simply unlocks the doors so people can save him rather than, I don't know, like breaking the pipes like he does in the end of the episode. So there's some discrepancy there. And then there were some things that felt a little like they're just throwing this in there to be interesting. Like the backwards masked phone message doesn't really have a place. Like it has nothing to do with astral projection, but because it's a ghostly entity, I guess they decided to use it. And then the radiation that Mulder's carrying around, that X-ray, and it's being affected by a
much better thing.
Some emitting radiation. They don't explain that at all, which I think is a disservice to the episode because it does help prove Mulder's theory, but we don't know what radiation has to do with astral projection. So it falls a little short for me. Yeah, I mean, an enjoyable episode for the guest acting, and I think they had some good meat there, but it just wasn't enough to completely save it, and it stays in that forgettable territory.
Right. Well, it's funny. I had this on my list, and I was hating on it really hard as I was doing my notes, and then I realized I was talking about Excelsis Day.
Uh-oh.
Because I was like, this isn't that episode. That's what I'm writing is about Excelsis Day. There's a similar logic at play in Excelsis Day. So I was like, right, there's other good stuff in there. It ain't that bad. So I immediately took it off, but of course it could have stayed in there for all the reasons that you outlined. Not a great one, but I think that there are enough good character performances in there that it had me, even though there was some really big plot holes. So I would agree with you. In another world, I could have been convinced that was a bottom episode of season 3.
All right.
That's not my third worst pick, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it, Andrew. So why don't you regale us with your third worst episode?
In my humble opinion, in season 3, the third worst episode of the season is Revelations.
Ooh, excellent choice.
It's their second kick at the can after Miracle Man to do a religiously themed episode, and they're going to try again, even worse, with All Souls in season 5. Now, there was a lot to like in the episode, but to me, it was just a story that was way too big for 44 minutes. It's this black and white story with very few shades of gray, and in a different universe, Mulder's going to have all sorts of theories as to why what's happening is happening, as opposed to just discounting it wholesale. Which is very much not like him, but they kind of wrote themselves into a corner because they have this dichotomy where one's got to be the believer and one's got to be the skeptic. So they're like, in this one, Mulder's going to be the skeptic. But I just didn't buy it.
No. I'm just going to jump right in because this is my number 2.
Oh, good. Continue. Yes.
Yeah.
It works very nicely, yeah.
I'm not a fan of the religious episodes, not because of the religion, but because it is, like you said, so broad of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
This eternal struggle between good and evil, it can be explored. I just think it needs a different show.
Yes.
And for the X-Files, it's like, okay, it kind of swoops in and undermines the whole alien being the alien conspiracy is about existential crisis on that level. We don't need all this spiritual stuff that could exist and may be existing, and there may be this tug of war going on. It just feels like the whole show is technically about nothing if there's this going on. I don't know. It hits me a little weird. Like, why are we worried about the conspiracy when there's this deep, deep spiritual stuff happening and God could truly exist and be fighting with the devil as we speak? Like, it just feels a little...
If they were going to do it, and we probably said this at the time, they should have made it a lot more vague. They shouldn't have confronted the religious angle quite so head on, because then you could have the allusion to faith as the central issue and be sort of going, is this really what this is? Oh, the kid's a Christ child. Okay. But to me, the real flaw in this episode, in addition to it being just way too big for the 44 minutes they've got, it's the supernatural nature of the villain. He's got these powers that cannot be explained away, and zero discussion of them because that's a loose thread that might completely break the episode, and there's just not enough time to get into it. So they explain it away with magic, ultimately, or
he
don't
traveled
explain
to
it.
Jerusalem and became one with Satan.
It's just so weird, and as you say, outside of the nature of the show.
Yeah.
So really, I just did not like it being here. Not for the content, as I say, there's some good stuff in there, but it's just by virtue of being so outside the show, it's kind of forgettable. You know, you're going to walk away from it going, well, that happened.
The only thing memorable necessarily is fucking Arlie Ermy, and he's in it for 3 minutes. And it's like, remember that time Arlie Ermy played a preacher? Okay, well, that's about it. That's all you remember if you're not a big fan of the show.
Well, exactly.
And I want to clarify for the listeners, it's not the fact that religion is part of the X-Files. I'm very much on board with Scully having a crisis of faith when she comes face to face with the stuff that Mulder shows her and that they experience together. I get that aspect of it. I just think that with the super religious episodes where they're pitting literally the devil versus Jesus or God, it comes off way too broad for me. It just feels like it undermines that narrative of the show. Well,
it turns them into ultra tourists as well.
Yeah.
Because
how do you compete with that? How do you do anything? You can't.
Yeah. So how do you beat the devil other than with a fiddle at the crossroads?
Right.
So, yeah, totally number 2 worthy. But so that was your choice.
That was my number 2. And I will say this.
Yeah.
One thing it has going for it, again, supporting cast. I actually enjoy the bad guy, even if he is ridiculous. Arlie Ermy, of course. And then,
of course,
the gruesome death at the end is pretty metal. So I appreciate that. However ridiculous it was to get there, and the worst line of the show, or at least of the season.
That's a banger of a line.
Full circle to find the truth. It doesn't make any sense in the context of the story, and they tacked it on to a recycling plant. So that's really bad.
Well, God has a sense of humor, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
That's all we get there. He's going to make you the hero, but he's going to parcel out the clues you need to solve the mystery one little tiny bit at a time.
And I want to say that was a highly edited recycling logo. It just, no, thank you.
So as not to offend anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, that was your choice for second worst episode of season 3. Would you now like to hear my choice for second worst?
Absolutely.
I'm going to warn you in advance.
Uh-oh.
This is going to ruffle your feathers a bit. Because I think you like this episode.
Oh, boy.
My choice for second worst of season 3 is Oubliette.
Oh, no. All right. That's interesting. Okay, I didn't see that coming. I mean, I do remember you had some negativity about it. It didn't strike you the right way in the moment, so I'm interested to hear.
Yeah. All right. Well, my issue here is similarly to Revelations. There is a lot of magic, in quotation marks, used to allow this episode to function. Lucy has this B positive nosebleed. 5 liters of water comes out of Lucy's mouth in the back of a car, and none of this ranks any attention for the FBI. These miraculous events. It's like, she got B positive blood suddenly. That's a strange one. Oh, she's drowning in the back seat of a car. That's also fairly strange. Wow. I guess that's just going to happen. And finally, I'm just left at a loss as to why Lucy is written to die. I mean, I get that this is pathos, that she's living her life like a victim and she gets to sacrifice herself for the other kid, but it's this obvious and frivolous way out of a bad script, and it just rubbed me the whole way wrong the entire time we were watching it.
Wow, that is... I mean, it's fair. I understand what you're saying. I think there are moments where her bleeding the blood, it's like, okay, that's interesting. And I understand your point about the magical transferring of liquids. Like, I know you had an issue with that in the episode itself, but I don't know. I guess none of that stuff really stood out to me as too much.
Gotcha.
For me, it was always, well, that's the X-Files. There's some spiritual connection between her experience as a child and Amy's experience now. Like, it's just enough for me for some reason. I don't know why that is, but there are certain episodes that do it. I think of Mind's Eye, where with the blind lady who is cleaning up the blood. She's in the act of violence that killed her mom. It did something to her in the womb, so now she can see through the killer. Like, it just works. Like, it doesn't have to make complete sense to me, I guess, but I can see your objections.
I don't need it completely explained.
Right.
My issue is that they don't even try at all. And again, I come back to my perennial favorite, the Coriolis effect of the water going down backwards in Die Hande Verlitz. It's like, right there, ladies and gentlemen, is this completely impossible thing staring you in the face, and the script does not allow you to color outside the lines and go,
that's not right.
Anybody else seen this?
Right.
But they throw it in there just as a way to make something cool, as opposed to make it make sense. I mean, I don't know quite how to articulate why it offends me so much, but it does.
That's fair.
And it's I guess it pulls me out of it, because one of the strengths of the X-Files is that you could see yourself there. They often write it so well, so straight, that you can be, oh, that does kind of make sense, or I get why that's happening. But when they pull this kind of shit, and it's just like, no. There's no way that is anything but magic. And you're not even trying to give me a reason how. You're just trying to be cool. So
that's fair.
Yeah, offended.
That's fair. To each their own, Andrew. I respectfully disagree on the placement on your list, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we do the show.
Well, it certainly doesn't outrank my first worst.
Yeah, now I'm really intrigued, because... All right. So if you're willing to pull out an episode that I think is genuinely good, this will be interesting. So shall I go to my number 1 worst episode?
I hope you've got the drums on standby, because I am ready for your first worst.
Our orchestra pit is ready. Timpani man. Okay. So for my worst episode of season 3, I chose none other Talitha Kumi.
Ooh, that's... I did not see that coming.
No.
That's...
I had a moment of silence, and I'm like, okay, I need to come up with the worst episode, and the one that kept ringing the bell was Talitha Kumi, and it really stems from our conversation. Even before we did the episode, it was always on the back burner for me, where I'm like, I just don't resonate with this episode. Because before we even did the podcast, I always had this kind of lukewarm feeling to it. And I feel like now I understand it more. It's just, a blah mythology episode. They start trying to do a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
I will clarify that the mythology is on the upswing right now. Still, at the end of season 3, it's still very interesting. It still makes enough sense to keep going and keep your interest. But
yeah,
it's just kind of boring. That's the biggest offense for this one. You know, the space stiletto being the number one focus of CSM in this one just hits me the wrong way. I don't buy that as the leader, or pretty close to the leader of the syndicate, does not have this thing at his disposal or would let it out of his sight. You know, this is the tool to help guide the alien takeover of Earth, kill aliens who are out of line, do whatever, keep the mission at hand and keep it on track. And he's given it to his best friend, and oh yeah, I killed him, but his wife knows where it is and it's hidden in a lamp. It's like, I just don't buy that. That just hits me the wrong way. And then they don't come back to why it's so important. And then everyone's got one later seasons. Like everyone, you know, Krychek's got one.
Yeah.
Other people have them. They're all over the place. So it's like,
this is Mulder's lightsaber. You know, that's the sort of thought process here, is the ultimate weapon, which, spoiler, does zero. Like, it really doesn't have any impact on the rest of the show.
Yeah.
It looks cool. It has an ominous purpose, but it's never used successfully.
Yeah. We joked about it in the show, but the fact that there are at least 6 of the same men working for the government.
Yeah.
And they haven't noticed.
Yeah.
When the show has a database of people and suspects that it can weed through in seconds to find suspects, I find it hard to believe that these guys got through unnoticed by working for the same department in different cities for the federal government.
I mean, really, you couldn't choose different names? I mean, it's such an obvious.
So, I mean,
no, we're deep into character, yeah.
It just, overall, it just does not hit me like other mythology episodes. And in complete objectivity, I think it doesn't hold a candle to the likes of Erlenmeyer Flask and Anasazi. It just doesn't.
Well, it's a strange place in the mythology arc. It's kind of a manufactured crisis that doesn't really have much of a purpose other than to bring in a bunch of characters and then immediately get rid of them. Like it kind of opens up some doors of this is happening and this is important, and there's a precious few plot nuggets, which are really, for me, in the mythology arc. It's kind of the reason I was interested in the show the most, was to have that little tidbit of information be given to me about what the overall plot arc was. Like, that's why that thing's happening. That realization is cool. Yeah. They don't give you a lot. Certainly in Talitha Kumi, there's more questions than answers. I think that this is a case of a late night with David Duchovny and Chris Carter, where they crib together this episode, and there's a lot of it'll come off as cool, but it doesn't really advance the story in an interesting way, which I tend to agree with you. It's not a great episode. It does not rank highly with our listeners either. It's forgettable in a way. Like, you could not see these episodes in the context of mythology, and I don't think you've been any less served.
You could make the argument that it's solely the setup for season 4 and the main through line of season 4, like the pollination and the bees and the smallpox.
Yeah.
You can make that argument, but if that's going to be your argument, then everything else in the episode other than Jeremiah Smith and Mulder being taken to this farm at the beginning of season 4.
Yeah.
Everything else is just fluff. There's no point to it. You know, his mom's stroke, there's no point to that. There's no point to
I would argue there is a point to that, in that the alien bounty hunter becomes the agent of healing for for Mrs. Mulder, which is an interesting twist. And it shows that CSM has some power. You could have avoided all of it and it wouldn't have changed anything, because they come right back to where they are post Herrenvolk. I mean, yes, it does cue up some stuff for the rest of the season, but they don't solve anything. They don't really learn anything. So you could have just easily not had those episodes.
So yeah, that is my number one worst episode, just because it's forgettable.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. It's a good choice.
It may not be fair, but the bar was set pretty high with the first 2 season finales. So,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting discussion. Which of the rank the season finales
yeah.
and season openers.
We could see
I have to
that.
think about that one. Would we like to move on to my worst of season 3 episode?
Intrigued, sir.
You are intrigued? Well, first of all,
probably DPO for some reason.
it is not DPO, but would you like to make another guess as to what you think my worst choice is?
Let's see.
I would not have guessed Talitha Kumi for you.
Quick scan of my brain. I'm going to say you were kind of lukewarm on Too Shy.
Is that your choice? Is that
that
your
is
final
that is my
answer?
choice. That's my choice.
That is your choice? That is not
No.
my choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My choice for the worst episode of season 3 is Avatar.
Avatar. All right. That makes sense.
Avatar.
All right.
There are structural problems with that script. Like, how on earth Walter Skinner is allowed to be released with such a damning case against him?
Yeah.
Not once, but twice. And much less visit Sharon in the hospital where he's the prime suspect in running her off the road.
Yeah.
The role of the old woman is ridiculous. I mean, I guess she's an angel. Certainly her connection to Sharon as the medium for the final showdown is extremely vague.
Mm-hmm.
It is this huge deus ex machina. That ties the bow on this X-Files episode where the series has been light on supernatural for the episodes preceding it. So it's like, all right, throw in a little supernatural. It'll be this. I mean, those alone make it mediocre for me. But as I said at the time, do you remember how I felt about Skinner's monologue to unconscious Sharon?
Yeah. Like he can only vent to her when she's unconscious.
That's right. So much so that he is not going to submit to this divorce, and he's going to fight for his marriage to keep her in this loveless one-way emotional trap.
Yep. I'm going to keep you here so I can feel good about myself while you're unconscious.
Yeah. It's just so... I mean, it's 90s TV it was written by a man, probably. That's my guess. Let me double check who wrote that bombshell.
Some guy who hates his wife.
It was written by David Duchovny and Howard Gordon. So, I mean, duh.
You are a soulless vessel for me to vent into.
That's right. My duty as a man is to be a stone wall to fight the world, and no one can see my emotions. Deal with it. So, yeah, it's such a horrible show.
Well, all we can hope is that he grew from this and they had a lovely marriage, even though we never hear about it again.
That's right. She's a one-shot character. I mean, I pray that she leaves him, runs away, and he can never reveal his fact to anyone.
One more time. So
yeah.
Oh well.
Well, the episode ends with such a hopeful note. You assume they patch up and go back to normal, but I can't even imagine what that would be. That's my first and only worst choice for season 3.
That's fair. And I had some significant issues with that episode too, like the government's involvement in setting Skinner up. Just was too much.
I mean, what even was that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're on the ball with figuring this stuff out and making him look guilty here, but then they're dropping the ball in the most obvious of places. It's like, come on, this is already convoluted.
Some drugs on him on a traffic stop, and you have got him out. If that's your objective, this whole convoluted thing of he's having sleeping issues, and they're going to take advantage of his weird old woman thing, and it was just. I mean, I did like the technical thing of finding the face on the airbag.
That was cool.
Again, that accident does not deploy an airbag, so it's just so many plot holes in that show.
Yeah. It is a weaker one for sure. And if anything else, confusing as fuck. So
definitely. And Kevin Moran agreed with me that it was his number one worst episode of season 3. He also mentioned that he didn't like Tezos dos Bichos, which of course is the worst, but was not available to be voted on because that was too easy. And he didn't like The Walk. That was his
The Walk.
That was in his list. So that was his second as well. So
nice.
He's the smart cookie, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of people from the syndicate,
absolutely.
Should we talk about the voting results?
Absolutely. I'm excited.
All right. Now, I have them here in front of me.
All right.
What do you think was the number 3 choice for the audience of their top 3 by voting results?
I'm going to go. And have you removed all the Darren Morgan episodes? I removed
all the Darren Morgan ones.
Okay.
Yes. They couldn't cheat.
Okay. So then I would go with third best. Paperclip?
Paperclip is it doesn't even rank.
Doesn't rank.
It got 1 vote.
Oh my god. Okay.
I know.
Oh. Okay, well then my second kick of the can for number 3, and then I'll stop here so I don't go through every episode.
24 choices, so eventually you're going to get it.
Maybe Syzygy? It's a good episode. I don't think it's a number 1. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that also did not get any audience.
Really?
0 votes.
Well, then I am shocked. Okay.
Spoiler, those were not number 2 or number 1 either.
That's nuts.
Those crazy people, don't
Those
they even know?
Crazy listeners. No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I figure they're very popular episodes. Third best. Well, did you not remove Quagmire?
Quagmire is on the list.
Okay, so Quagmire.
Do you think this Quagmire is the third best according to the
listeners? If it's not third, it's first.
Well, I will tell you that it is not third best.
Okay.
So I will tell you what the audience thinks it is, and that is DPO with a vote ranking of 15.
Damn it! I thought that would rank higher with them, but all right.
Yeah, 15% of the votes go to, well, how does that work? Yes, I guess this is out of 100. No, I don't think math checks out. Or maybe it does. Anyway, it's the third best. That's really all it comes down to. Okay. It got the third most votes.
Interesting.
It's an interesting choice.
Third choice.
Yeah.
I agree that it's a very good episode. I'm shocked it didn't rate higher because everyone loves that episode.
Yeah. Following in after Blessing Away Paperclip, it really is in some ways the beginning of season 3 because I would say that Blessing Away and Paperclip are kind of the end of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a banger. But not a third, not really a first place banger, as you might say. So, Mike, I think it's time to talk about number 2.
All right. Number 2.
What do you think the audience chose for number 2 of the best of season 3?
Oh, no, this is hard.
It is hard, isn't it?
Given what they had to work with, no Darren Morgan, I'm going to go with...
Your eyes are scrunching up. You are like
I am struggling.
Really struggling. Yeah.
Because everything I'm thinking of is like, no, there's no way that's a top 2 or top 3. I'm going to go... Oh, no, shit. No. This is tough.
Well, next year you can tabulate the votes.
Okay, I'll go Wet Wired because people had some pretty nice things to say about that one.
Wet Wired, indeed. Doesn't even rank. Not a single vote.
All right. What is it?
The second best of season 3, according to our listening audience, is Quagmire. 23% of the vote. Yes, did not rank top. The shippers were outnumbered by the other listener viewers. Interesting choice.
Now I'm just at a loss for words as to what was actually included on number 1. If Quagmire didn't make number 1, and they couldn't pick any more Darren Morgan episodes, this is interesting. All right.
Well, then let us bowl right into what you think the audience has chosen.
Well, I was going to say Quagmire, so I can't do that now.
It is a significant margin, I will say. The number 1 pick got 34% of the vote share, whereas the number 2, Quagmire, got 23%, and the number 3, DPO, got 15%. So it's a significant selection that chose the top episode, which I was about to accidentally say, but I'm going to let you guess what it might be.
The only other one, Pusher.
It is Pusher. That was the audience's choice for best of season 3.
Nice. I mean, you cannot go wrong with that one.
Yeah, definitely. Well chosen audience. Some solid, good choices in there. I was briefly toying with the idea of saying that you chose Talitha Kumi just to see Mike fall to pieces. But I didn't do that because he's too nice.
I'm not that out of tune with my audience.
So I don't.
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What you are hearing now is a warning to Mike and Andrew. Their fervor for getting to the truth and facts of these cases has gone too far. It has drawn our attention. And let me tell you, we are very displeased. Their show is gaining too much notoriety and success. We will bring them down. We have already implemented one countermeasure to undermine their credibility. You've heard it several times when they make mistakes. This is but a taste of our capabilities. Enjoy your night, ladies and gentlemen. Because Mike and Andrew will be brought down, you will not be able to trust anything you can hear on this show. And our plans will come to fruition.
Well, shall I begin the best of the season 3 episodes? That way you can end with the ultimate choice.
The ultimate.
The ultimate choice.
Which I have a feeling you're going to disagree with.
That is entirely possible because that's the way it's going to roll. I will tell you that my choice for the third best episode of season 3 is Piper Maru.
Oh, all right.
Classic 2-part mythology episode. Continues this arc that's been simmering for 2 other 2-parters so far. You know, it was in Anasazi Blessing Way Paperclip. That continued in Nisai 731. And then it solidly continued in Piper Maru and Apocrypha. And if you were an X-Files fan in the 90s, these were the episodes you lived for, where the episodes doled out plot nuggets in the stingiest of ways, teasing out the overall story in minute detail. What do you think of my choice?
It's a good choice. It's a great episode. Wow. I didn't expect, I don't know why, I didn't expect a whole lot of mythology from you.
You think I don't like mythology arcs, but this was, I took a page out of your book. I kind of wanted to do what's a kind of mythology choice, what's a kind of monster of the week choice, and then ultimately what's the best. Regardless of the genre. But I didn't want to just, because you could cherry pick the episodes and do nothing but monster of the weeks. Because you got to admit, like, as you say, for mythology episodes, the bangers are Erlenmeyer Flask, some of the originals where they really are setting the stage, and then some of the laters. The mid ones, they kind of start recycling some stuff, as we just said, from Talitha Kumi. You know, at that point, I feel like they were getting real stingy with the plot nuggets.
Yeah.
But I think Piper Maru has some great reveals. It's got some actual detective work. We get the Black Oil as a new great big bad. Some side characters that are really interesting. I mean, I really think it's a tragedy we don't get more Geraldine Kalinchuk. She was such a great character.
She was a fun character. And you're right. The introduction of the Black Oil it's a stepping stone for the series. It becomes the single most important aspect of the mythology in a lot of ways.
Ultimately.
So.
Yeah.
That is a good choice, and one I kind of overlooked, but very good pick.
Well, you don't like the show, so I'm not surprised.
I hate the show. It's terrible.
Yeah, ultimately. So, Mike, what is your choice for the third best episode of season 3?
This took some doing.
I imagine it would.
Like my bottom 3, I was struggling a bit, but this one was a little easier to decide for my top 3. It was like, well, There are plenty of good episodes to choose from. Ultimately, I whittled it down to 3 that I just enjoy watching. I tried to go with a more visceral, natural feeling. How does Mike feel when this episode comes on? And my number 3 is Oubliette.
Which is why your eyebrows really raised when I chose it as my number 2 worst episode.
I'm a sucker for emotional stories and tragic characters. So I am drawn to Lucy. And oddly enough, for a show like The X-Files, I feel like the seriousness and realism of its situation makes it terrifying. And I think it has a place right next to Irresistible.
I'm sorry, just to back up, you used the word realism, right?
I'm talking about the kidnapping and the disgusting
gotcha.
stuff.
Right. Yes. Fair enough. I concur with. Yeah.
Not the transporting blood and liquids. No.
Yes, the realistic parts. Yeah.
Like Irresistible before it, this one is more about true crime than outright paranormal phenomena. The struggle between his job and personal attachment has Mulder really reeling in a way that we haven't seen up until this point. We've seen him struggle, but this one really sends him over the edge because it's paralleled so greatly with his sister's disappearance. And I think it's just an emotional episode that adds depth to Mulder, in my opinion. I can't speak for you, Andrew. I know you hate it. I know you hate overdramatic women, but Lucy's plight really gets me. She's a tortured soul who was never going to make it out of the episode, despite the strength that she. And again, I feel like at the end she made that ultimate sacrifice. I know during the episode she didn't know what was happening to her, but I feel like at the end maybe there was some choice involved. And if not, that makes it even more tragic.
Well, they try to give value to the death by saying that she sacrificed herself to save the girl, but there's no evidence of that. They don't give us anything there other than to show the agony of her drowning in the backseat of a car. So I don't know if I can even go there. It's so preordained that she's going to die. It's just like, okay. Oh, that was original. I'm sorry, you loved the episode. Let me try and find some positive.
I have no problem talking about its flaws. It does have flaws. Don't even get me started on Scully's lack of medical skills at the end.
Yeah, she's dead.
Stop compressions, Mulder. She's gone. Don't even try.
Yeah. If you stop compressions on her in the movie, it would be the Mulder show. I mean, he clearly knows when to give up and when not to give up.
It's just a very good episode. I think the emotional lines are there. It is very creepy, and it's got just enough, like I said, for when you hated the episode, just enough to make sense for me. They touched, and now she's got this connection with the bad guy, and now she's living through Amy. So I guess that it just works for me in that way.
And that's really all that these top 3, bottom 3s are about, is what works for people subjectively. Yep. So I accept your choice. I get it. What can I say? Shall we move on to the second best choices for season 3? All right.
Let's do it.
I had for my second best episode of season 3, Syzygy.
Oh, I saw that coming. I thought it would be on your list somewhere.
You thought, you knew I liked this episode.
Oh, yeah.
This one could have been written by Darren Morgan, but it wasn't. I mean, this was Chris Carter who did it.
Yeah.
But it's a treasure. I mean, I think it's one of the greatest Monster of the Week episodes and one of the greatest character pieces for Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny. I mean, they had so much fun playing jerks to each other.
That is probably the episode's biggest strength, is that we've got these two characters that we know who they are almost in and out, and they are playing different people than we have come to know. And it becomes so fun to watch them take shots at each other
Yeah.
in the most
So
like
many good
pedestrian and juvenile ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean the monster in the episode is also very unique. It's the cosmos. I mean, it's,
Yeah. How do you compete
you're not
with
going to
that?
beat it. Yeah. You just have to survive it. I mean, it's got a few things I'm normally not partial to. The agents are largely tourists. They don't really solve anything. And the villains have these powers, which are ambiguous, undefined, and malleable. But the unique setup, the excellent performances, this brutally wonderful script, it creates this brilliant episode that's a wonderful one on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just loved it. I thought it was great. Although I didn't love it first. I loved it second most.
Second most.
Second most.
You have me chomping at the bit to know what your number one is, but I do want to say, like, to add on to your point about it possibly being a Darren Morgan episode, I think I said during our record that it feels like Chris Carter took notes from Darren Morgan. It's like, okay, funny can be an actual X-Files episode. So this is his job, and he did a fantastic job with this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mike, what is your second most bestest episode of season 3?
Second most. I'm going to go, and this is going to shock probably everyone listening. But I have to stay true to what I said. How does Mike feel when these episodes come on?
Okay.
I'm going to go with Too Shy.
Okay. I did not see that coming. Yeah.
Interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, people are probably going to be scratching their heads for my whole list, but it's just
because I know what episode is now not on your list,
right.
And I'm shocked and amazed because I know what your number one episode is. I mean, it is clearly, obviously, the show I'm thinking of.
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I will be.
I think you're going to be shocked.
Oh, okay. Well, keep going on Too Shy.
Keen listeners will recall this as an episode where little Mike almost threw up watching the opening scene. I had to remove myself from the room. I was 9, or actually maybe even 8. I don't remember. But after he pulls his mouth away from that poor woman in the car, and she's got that goo all over, and she can't breathe, I'm like, I gotta leave the room. So this one scared me out of the room as a kid, and I came back to finish it. I mustered up the courage. It's just an excellently disgusting episode with some of the best practical effects. And even if the practical effects are mostly jelly, it's still absolutely disgusting when you think about what it's supposed to be. This is that age-old story of a good-looking man fish-hooking women who are overweight so he can harvest their fat, Andrew. It's a tale as old as time.
As old as time, yeah.
With an X-Files twist. So, also great soundtrack by Mark Snow, creepy antagonist, and I will say there's an unfortunate wardrobe choice for the last victim. She just looks like a mess when she goes out on that date. But I think overall this is just a very fun episode. The ridiculousness of the bad guy and what he does and how he attracts his women with Italian poetry. It's so ludicrous and amazing. I just love it.
Well, that is one of the things I had an issue with in the show when we watched it was that it's like the Achilles heel for the villain in most shows is that they have something unique that allows them to be tracked. So in this case, there's the clue in is the completely rare Italian poetry or ancient languages or whatever. So it's like, oh, well, that's how we're going to find him. And they do. So you could have made it a more interesting episode by not making it so exceptional as to drill down on this guy almost immediately. Right. Like there are other ways you could have allowed the agents to show us how smart they are, because they've shown us in other episodes that these guys, you know, Scully and Mulder are smart. They can investigate and prosecute a crime. And clearly this guy has gotten away with it for a number of bodies. I am boggled that they wouldn't have caught him sooner.
He starts making all the mistakes in this one city.
Yeah.
He doesn't keep up with his shadiness and his ways to evade the police. He just makes all the mistakes.
But that said, what are the things I like about this episode? Because I didn't hate it. Those were a few things that I didn't love about this episode, but there were things I did like. I mean, he's a classic villain we love to hate. It ranks real heavily because he's a slime ball, and we get a bird's eye view of him as he is being evil through the whole episode. Mm-hmm. And those are usually the very interesting episodes when we have this passenger side view of the villain. Different kind of episode where you don't get to see what the villain is doing. And it is literally the hunt for the solution. In this case, we know it's going to end in his being stopped in some way. It's a question of how. And that's where the show is interesting, in that you see the twists and turns, and it's well done in that regard. But the Ellen comes in with the shot that saves the day. I kind of like
nice
that, as opposed
redemption.
to it being, the redemption arc is complete. It's not Mulder coming in to save the day, because that's happened a bunch of times.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good on you for choosing an episode written by Jeffrey Laming, one of his 2 picks.
Yep. All right, Andrew.
Okay. Are you set for my best of?
I'm foaming at the mouth
3.
for this thing.
I bet you are, and I bet you already know what it is.
I think I do, but we'll see.
All right. Well, here we go. My choice for the best episode of season 3 is Pusher.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint, eh?
No, I mean, it's a completely legitimate answer. You can't go wrong with this answer.
Yeah. Well, in this sense, I am in accord with the voting audience, who also ranked Pusher number 1. It's Vince Gilligan. He does not disappoint. Simple, straightforward idea. It's teased out wonderfully. This down-to-earth police procedural with a supernatural twist. A villain you love to hate. An epic showdown. Robert Wisden. I mean, he's amazing. So all in all, an amazing episode. There's a few plot holes, but nothing you can't hand wave away. And there's nothing in this one. As you know, I hate episodes where it's like, if you start thinking about it, it's like, that doesn't make sense. And I don't know why that's happening. But in this one, there's nothing you can't unravel if you look at it hard enough. This is Vince Gilligan at his... So go ahead.
I was just going to agree with that point. I think everything attaches to each other just well enough to avoid that unraveling. His power is pretty much the same throughout the episode, so there's no tugging at that string. He's very good. The only thing that is left up to question, I even think we debated it a little bit, was does he actually need to be saying something to have his effect work on someone? Because there are moments where it feels like he doesn't need to be in the room or nearby. So other than that, I think this episode hangs together really well. It is, again, Vince Gilligan just knocking it out of the park. The only episodes he really falters on would be the ones that he collaborates with people on. And those are typically mythology or something like fucking Emily and Christmas Carol or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is a perfect bad guy. Robert Wisden does a fantastic job, and he earns a sequel not just because of the writing. I think it has a lot to do with how he played it.
Well, it was such a popular episode. I think they knew they had something, and it was a question of, do we have an interesting way to bring him back? And I would argue that they did. It worked. I don't think it's as good. The sequel is as good as Pusher, the original.
Oh, no.
I think it's an interesting idea. I think it could have been like movie material, though. That would have been really interesting to have 2 hours of that show. That was my feeling at the time, was they crammed so much into it. So yeah, but you arguably didn't need to have that. Like, you could have just died off screen after Pusher, and it would have been fine.
And he's one of those characters that you want more of, but he doesn't need to come back. So the fact that he brought him back is good, but I can live without that episode. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not Pusher level.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, excellent choice. You and the listeners, you cannot argue with that.
No, there is no arguing. So whatever you choose is clearly going to be wrong.
Well, I'm going to turn the tables now. So what do you think my number one is? Because you seem positive.
I did.
What did you think before this moment?
Before this moment, I would have said you would choose Quagmire.
Okay.
But
nope.
You did. No, I was going to say.
And that's a fair choice because it is, but I put it in that category of Darren Morgan had his hands in it. So I tried to stay away. Okay.
All right.
So what is your guess?
I'm going to give you another. Oh, I know what it is. It's grotesque.
Are you serious?
Well, I know you've got a soft spot for that episode.
I do. That's true.
Okay, but that's not the choice.
Okay, well.
Okay,
I'll give you one more
last
shot.
Last choice. Wet Wired.
No,
it's not in Wet Wired. Okay, all right. I am as mystified as you were when So,
all right.
Okay. I
number
am
one
on the edge of my seat.
Excellent. My number one, season 3 episode that I get giddy every time it starts. I know which episode it is immediately, and it's just a good time. DPO.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't not enjoy this episode. I don't skip it ever just because it is a blast to watch everyone in this episode interact. Giovanni Ribisi and Jack Black have this antagonistic friendship that is relatable. I think a lot of people at that age definitely have similar relationships. And I think this episode is just quintessential 90s life, just tucked into 42 minutes. So the arcade lifestyle was very much a part of my life. And Ribisi's contempt for authority, it all falls into the 90s mosaic of unhappy teens and grunge angst. So I think it's just fun to relive these moments. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, you can believe it. Like when you see them, watching traffic, and he's got this ability to cause a traffic jam or, accident at a crossroads. You're like, well, I can see that totally. If you give a teenager with problems that power, he's going to do that. And that's really scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in this episode. The Mrs. Kavit plotline with it, at the very end, he finally gets what he wants, and rarely do you get to see that. The villain doesn't get to win.
He's almost satiated.
He has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of crumbles.
Yeah. And as it does, you're like, oh, now shit's going to get real because they're taking away his happy juice. Uh-oh.
And that's one of my favorite parts, too, is his power is one of the most frightening things, but one of the most powerful things. It's a bolt of lightning. And how many times as a kid did you wish you could throw like a fireball at someone or something? But he's got this power. So he's living that childish dream or whatever when you're playing with your friends. This is the ultimate power for a teenager to have, especially one that has emotionally stunted development. So he's going to do a lot of damage, and he's not going to have a whole lot of restrictions on who he thinks deserves a lightning bolt. So I think it makes it a very compelling character, perfect vessel for that kind of power, I think. In a different bad guy, an older, more well-rounded bad guy, it would be a little bit more discerning. I think it would be a completely different episode, but this one is just like ultimate power. Who do I want to take out? Who's pissing me off kind of thing. So I think it's fun to just put yourself in the episode and just let it happen around you. It's really fun. And on top of that, a killer soundtrack. I think Carter and crew really shelled out the extra money to make this episode feel like the ultimate angsty teen episode.
Yeah, it's Danzig is on the soundtrack. for
We've
this
got
one.
we've got Filter. We've got
Yes, Filter, definitely. I think Danzig's on there. Anyway, it's, as you say, it's a killer one. They hadn't up until this point really licensed a lot of pop music.
a couple, but
they-
nothing.
Yeah, it was only, I think, in Humbug where they started to bring in some stuff. But before then, I'm thinking about 3 where they used, Mark Snow's other music. And it's like, this does not fit here,
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting choice. And gotta say, Howard Gordon usually goes too far in the scripts that he's provided. But in this one, there was some subtlety and it was really nuanced. And I really appreciated that, it was a really good script and it was interesting that it was his.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was some oversight there from Chris Carter or somebody, because it was a solid show. There was nothing in there that I went, I don't believe that. I don't understand why
I
that
don't
happened.
believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall,
Excellent
just
choice.
a very fun episode.
And
it really is a contender for number 1 between this and Pusher, things like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can't argue with any of these top 3s for anyone, I don't think. Even our listeners,
Oh, for
they
sure.
have all great choices. You have great choices.
Mhm.
It's when the episodes are good, they're all up for grabs, so
And for different reasons too, right? None of them
Absolutely.
is, like, I suppose you could open your metrics and say, well, I like it because of A, B, and C are all off the charts, but in these cases, they're all good for one reason or another.
yeah. Excellent.
Interesting choices. Well, I think that's pretty much it. We have covered season 3 completely. Fully.
Well, we are on to season 4 in a couple weeks here.
Yeah, we're going
I'm
to take
excited.
a little time off, to regroup and
Yeah.
watch other shows.
Squeeze in something else for a while, but no. Yeah. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, we will be with the premiere of season 4, offering up our website. And I'm not going to go into the web address just yet, but things are coming together.
How exciting, Mike. A website. This is vintage 2001 technology we are investing
Oh my
in here.
God. We finally
wow.
got it going after years.
Do you have all the curly cues and brackets in the right places, and you've got your
think so.
HTMLs and your block tags and all your
Oh, yeah. It's very
all
rudimentary.
there? Yeah.
But I think you guys are going to like it. It's going to be a place where you can go to see what the current episodes are. It'll be links to all the shows of Magus Media and bios for the hosts. Andrew has his own little section. And
What?
there's going to be a
Yes,
blog
totally
where
have my own little section.
there's going to be a blog where I can post updates. Andrew can post anything he wants. John
get ready.
from my other show can post anything.
Get ready.
So, it's going to be a lot of fun. At best, though, I think this is just going to be a good place for people to go just to have a central location and see what we're doing. So, I'm
In case you
excited
don't
about
like
it.
the Faceberg.
Yeah. Instead of random Facebook links here and there, you can get the current lowdown in one spot. So, we're excited.
Right.
We are currently working on bonus material with a subscription model. So keep your eyes and ears peeled, ladies and gentlemen, because things are happening.
Watch this space.
Yeah. We are excited and ever thankful to everyone who's listening and engaging with us on Facebook and beyond. So thank you again, and we will see you in season 4.
Season 4, here we come. Get the map out.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this evening's special occasion. Let's hear it one more time for your hosts, Mike and Andrew. Remember, please use the closest exit to your seat, located at the sides and rear of the auditorium. Please do not run so as to avoid any unnecessary injury. Walk at a steady but brisk pace to avoid congestion. We all have families and loved ones to get home to, so let's work together. We encourage the buddy system when leaving the theater. Lock arms with the person you brought with you, or anyone you trust. Never let go to avoid getting swept up in the sea of people leaving the theater. We wish everyone a safe trip out of the theater and to their vehicles for the end of the night. Thank you again, and we will see you for Season 4!
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilepod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.